Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is back, and so is the Bravo Outsider podcast. We're diving into the season 6 premiere and talking about that RV trip and the ghost stories around the campfire. We're also going to be talking about who's in the best and worst positions going into this season. You're not going to want to miss it. All that and more on this episode of the Bravo Outsider podcast.
I'm so scared right now. Guys. I don't know where we are.
Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider podcast. We are back. It's been a minute, but Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is back, and we thought this is the perfect time to make our return. I am joined, of course, by my co-host, Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, how's it going?
Doing good. Yeah, sorry about the break. It's been
why
good
didn't you cry about it?
Well, we had a lot of stuff we had to work on, I think. I don't know what Craig was doing, but I was with Blake and Ben.
I think what I have a very full life because I keep it kind of private. Okay. And I'm not going to drop names, but I'll be with Ben and Blake.
I don't really like to talk about the stuff too much. I'm very private, but I do have a very full life. So that's why I just take some time away. So sorry about that, guys, but I had some other priorities.
Well, we are going to dive into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiere. Do you want to just lead us off with a little bit of a summary as to what happened on this episode?
Yeah, everybody except for Lisa gets packed into a camper van and drawn out to a cabin area in the Provo Canyon, which looks really like a really, really beautiful place to do fentanyl. And they do some camping stuff, some open air fires and kayaking and fly fishing, and discuss lawsuits against Lisa, rumors about Whitney's shady business, Bronwyn lying, Brittany dragging Jared into it again, things of that nature. Classic Utah stuff.
Yeah. Do you have a single word to sum up your feelings about this episode?
I would shaky. We've got the handheld cameras, shaky camera footage. We get we get bookended by kind of a Blair Witch Project tribute, but I think that also kind of describes the kind of uncertainty of everyone's relations to one another and everybody's business endeavors and everybody's finances. Everything's very shaky in this episode. Yeah,
the one word I would use would be excited. I was excited about this going into it, but then watching it, I just you have to remember how great of a cast this is compared to the other franchises. We've got so many all-stars here. Whitney gives us a ton. Angie is amazing in this episode. Brittany is doing her chaotic Brittany thing. And Lisa is present in this episode, even though she's not physically present. I just really am excited about what this season has in store. And the fact that even though we have a little bit of a recap at the beginning of this episode, kind of outlining who is good with who and who is not good with who, I still have no idea. I can't really figure it out yet. And the fact that it is so up in the air and dynamic really excites me about this. So I am looking forward to what is in store for us this season.
Yeah, it is a really great cast. Brittany is the weakest link, but she's hysterical. The fact that she doesn't gel with the others is just another reason why she's amazing.
You think she's the weakest link?
Are you drunk?
Yeah. Who else would it be? Who is your candidate for weakest link then?
Okay, I would say Meredith. To be honest, I think that
be fair,
at least in
this episode, she was just kind of on the sidelines. She didn't really do anything. Huh?
Yeah, for sure. I think she does have, you're right, she does have a long history of giving a lot, but here we didn't really see much of her. So, I don't think that Brittany was the weakest here, at least. No. I guess I just mean in terms of the cast, in terms of the ability to forge dynamics and connections and drama and stuff. Brittany is the one who's kind of the most frozen out of the friend group, but she makes for great TV. For that reason, totally. Among others, yeah. So do you have a favorite scene in terms of the narrative of this episode?
In terms of the narrative, I think Whitney versus Brittany was my favorite bit. Kind of when they got at it later on, while frying some hot dogs and eating them and rolled over loaves of whole wheat bread or whatever. I thought that was a really good that was a really good conflict. Just the way that it shows like how to try to hijack a narrative for emotion versus like the actual reasoning of your logic and stuff. Like it's like the thing is, somebody said that Brittany has bad timing. I think Heather said that, and that's great. And that's so true. She has like really bad timing, which is one of the reasons why she's always so awkward. And the editors like really overplay that too by like always including scenes of nobody talking after every single thing she says. You know, the editors love
they give it a lot of space. Yeah,
they love to give space after her every comment to try to underscore that her timing's off, that she's saying things that are disconnected from what other people are saying. But what I found so interesting about that conversation was that like I thought Brittany like had the better hand there. She had the better argument. Like Whitney was totally out of line to be like, oh, you pointed out that people on TikTok are saying my company is an MLM. Well, you suck dick for money. And and Brittany seems to be the only person who's like, wait, that was actually kind of not fair. Like that's not the same thing. Actually, that's not like equivalent to what I was talking about at all. But when you completely hijack it by getting emotional and being like and talking about, oh, we don't talk about the businesses that fail and how hard it is to have a failed business and succeeds in bringing everybody over to her side so well that even Brittany very awkwardly is like, oh, damn it. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to go hug you now. And then Whitney gets to make a show of being like, no, don't hug me. It's just, and then Brittany immediately falls back and like, okay, but can I have an apology for the dick sucking thing? And they're like, no, shut up about the dick sucking thing. I thought that was great.
Yeah. It's an absolutely beautiful steamrolling on the part of Whitney. The way that she is able to just completely get everyone on her side here. Beautiful stuff. This was my favorite scene as well in terms of the narrative, because I think we really, not only did we get the Whitney versus Brittany, we also really kind of dove deep. And I think this is where we actually truly got the best kind of sense of the shaky, uneven footing that all these relationships have. Mm-hmm. So I think that there was a lot of like tension in here when they were talking about Lisa. There's a lot of questions surrounding how do they even talk about her. Like, you know, sometimes they're going too far in one direction by comparing her directly to the crimes of Jen Shaw. Sometimes they're being like super soft on her. Everyone kind of doesn't really know how to talk about Lisa, and she's not even there, that they still have to tiptoe around it. So I really enjoyed the tension in this scene and just what it gave us narratively. It also contained my favorite shot of this episode, but I'm curious what your favorite shot was, if you have a shot or sequence or a beat that really stood out.
I can't think of a specific shot, but there's a lot of good filmmaking in this. Like I think there always is in this show, but one sequence that really stood out to me was when they're doing the fly fishing trip. I just thought like the comedic timing of like, you know, Meredith and Mary are talking about fly fishing with their two guides, I think called Joe and Dusty. And I just really enjoy that little like non sequitur conversation. About, you know, Meredith being like, how long does it take to catch a fish? And them not answering, and they're being like, okay, but I just want to know if it's like 5 minutes or 5 hours. And he's like, well, we call it fishing, not catching. And then they talk about like, what if you can bring a fish back to life? And Mary's like, oh, what's your name? And then we get like 6 iterations of Dusty, Gusty, Dusty, Gusty, Dusty. And then she's like, well, Gusty would know. Yeah. and then, you know, it just ends with them being like, we can't bring them back to life. And I like, they really sustained that with like very like well-timed edits between like just like stable shots with like 2 people in frame. Just very good comic timing. For me, I was having a great time. And they don't break it with any confessionals until like we get to that point at the end where he says you can't revive a fish, where they finally give us a confessional of Mary saying very confidently, that's not true. Like, no, you could absolutely revive a fish. This Gusty does not know what the hell he's talking about. That's a thing that you can do. Anyways, not doesn't really touch on any of the drama going on, but that's the kind of like a little comic moment that very meticulously constructed by the editors that I just find really, really lovely and kind of impressive.
Yeah, and I think that there's that moment of Mary's kind of like belief that this fish could be possibly resurrected. It's like, it's really funny, but also it kind of ties into something they are doing thematically within this episode in terms of leaning into the horror and paranormal element of things. When we've got a ghost story that is strung through this episode, and we have the visual nods to the Blair Witch Project, like especially at the end, very heavily. I think that this all kind of ties into this almost parallel dimension that they are trying to build within this episode that I really liked. But in terms of my favorite shot, I mentioned it was in the campfire scene that we got. It was right as the momentum and tension builds up between Whitney and Brittany, like right at the end. It is punctuated by someone pouring lighter fluid on the fire, and there's a big like plume of like a flame that lights up right in front of Brittany when she's like at her most frustrated. And I thought that was just like such a great punctuation, and I just loved the timing on it and how it was edited in there. I thought that was particularly brilliant. I also think a notable mention to the overhead drone shots that we got of the kayak trip. I really liked how they made it feel like you are looking down, reading a map, and you see these housewives that are like struggling to find and navigate this landscape, which to me really mirrored kind of the point that we are at in terms of the relationships with this season. Like, we don't know what's going on. There's a ton of chaos and no one knows how to navigate it. I just thought that tied in really nicely, whether it was intentional or not. I just really enjoyed that.
I think it surely was intentional. I think Heather would agree with you, since she had a chapter in her book where she used, get this, a river as a metaphor for life.
True, right, absolutely.
True fact. She's the first author who's ever done that. She's trademarked the technique, and that's why
Bad Mormon, great poet.
Yeah. Yeah, taking cues from Heather.
Yeah, I touched on this like theme of the paranormal and horror. I'm wondering if there was anything that you saw in terms of the visual themes or devices.
Yeah, that just to pick up on that, we do have a moment where Heather refers to Jen Shaw as being like entombed, and she talks about her like a mummy that's locked away that you don't want to invoke or something. Can't remember the exact words, but I think the sound effects team, which was really on fire this episode, like gives us some little audio cues of like a crypt opening or something while she talks about that. So that kind of plays into the idea that there's sort of a paranormal dimension of like unaddressed, sinister things haunting the background of the story.
Yeah, totally. How about quotes? What stood out to you in terms of the quotes this episode?
It was a good one near the start when Brittany was like, "Oh, we're going to pass by my house," and Mary says, "Maybe we can drop you off." That was I thought she was quick at her feet there, but otherwise, I really like the earlier conversation between Whitney and Brittany regarding Jared. I thought that was some great stuff, and I especially like the exchange where Whitney's like, "Oh, I see him at the gym. He definitely seems single." And she's like, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean he seems single?" And she's like, "Well, let's just say I've never seen him use a machine."
Yeah.
Okay,
this was my favorite quote as well, because like Whitney was trying to be subtle initially, and she's like, "Yeah, let's just say I've never seen him on a machine." And then she has to like really drill down. It's like, "I always see him at the cafe. on dates. Like
Yeah.
really needs to like
he introduces me to his dates.
Yeah.
And then Heather's like, is it really a date if you're at the Lifetime Cafe? And she's like, don't sleep on the chicken salad. It's a very, very good exchange. And the whole conversation was really good.
So I want to dive into strategy. One thing that I want to start doing is something I've labeled in my outline here as snakes and ladders. I wanted to have a discussion about changes in position in terms of how we see the social structures here, like who has the most power and who is has the least, or who's got the most leverage on who. I'm curious to know what you think about the current structure going in. We've said it's kind of shaky and hard to identify. Do you see anyone as holding a particularly strong social position versus anyone else?
I'm not really sure who's on strong footing right now. A lot of people seem weakened right now, but who actually seems stronger than usual? I'm not too sure. That's now that you mentioned it again, I'm like, who's actually on who's coming into this season reinforced and redeemed and strengthened? I'm not too sure who that is. Who do you think that would be?
Yeah, so in terms of like the people with the strongest positions right now, I actually think that Heather is in a pretty good position. There's no one that has really got anything on her that is actionable. You know, she's got like a beef with Bronwyn, but it doesn't seem to be that serious. So I think that she's in a pretty good position. I think that Angie has a pretty like solid position right now. She's kind of good with everyone, but I don't think that either of them are particularly in like positions of power. Because I don't think that they're the type of housewives that particularly seek to be holding power. They're not trying to get into this like puppet master type role. And I think that Angie has maybe intentionally kind of undermined her own position this episode, just in how she has been talking about Lisa on this trip. She's very eager to throw Lisa under the bus. And we see in the clips kind of leading up, like the flashbacks to a couple weeks prior, that, you know, her and Lisa are pretty good. They're talking very friendly on the phone. So I think that she is trying to undermine her own position just because she works better with a little bit of chaos going on. So but I do think that Angie and Heather are kind of in the strongest positions here.
Sure.
How about in terms of the weakest position? Who do you think is the weakest?
I mean, Whitney right away has to defend herself. So that seems to be like she's in a position where everybody knew that she was going to be under attack, I guess, because of some stuff that was on TikTok or whatever. So she's immediately in a defensive posture, and everybody seems to be prepared for that. Like when she starts getting attacked, Heather says, "Don't kick a one-legged dog when they're down," which is another good Heather quote, because it's such a backhanded defense. Like, no, don't attack her. She's absolutely pathetic and broken and only has one leg. Bronwyn definitely has a bit of work cut out for her. I think the lying about the necklace thing like really hurts her a lot, especially for somebody who joined the show recently. I think that she's and also has like some conflicts with other players. I think that she's starting off in a position of weakness for sure. And she's also somebody who knows that she's got her work cut out for her, I think, to kind of claw her way back into the good graces of other people. Which, though, you know, I would also say that both of them are both Whitney and Bronwyn were ones that did good work this episode. In terms of starting to climb that hill, of starting to like recognize that they're starting at a bad position off the bat, and have to do some work to get back up. I mean, Brittany's obviously in a weak position because nobody really seems to like her or take her seriously. It is just such a great running gag for me that every single episode she's just like, me and Jared, and everybody else is like, cool story. Anyways, And it was just kind of the peak of that to have her announce her engagement, then immediately announce the disengagement.
Yeah.
Really great bit.
Yeah, I think that you're pretty spot on with the people that are kind of at the bottom of the ladder right now. I think one person that you didn't mention is Lisa, and it seems like she is not in a good position here, which is really interesting to see.
Which makes her decision to not take part an interesting choice, right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I think that her decision to not go on a cast trip, especially one that is so early in the season, that decision is really confusing to me. I feel like she gave up a huge opportunity to kind of frame the narrative around her by not going on this trip. I don't know. What do you think? Was that a misplay?
Yeah. I think it's strategic. Whether it's the right choice or not, I'm not sure, but I could kind of see a possible concept there. Like, I feel like she knows that people are going to have to figure out how they stand in regards to her. If there's these stories circulating about her businesses and stuff, and maybe she feels like she has to figure out what the starting positions are before she kind of jumps into the fray, and thinks that that's better sorted out without her present. And then she can join in once she has a better idea of like who's on her team and who's on the team against her. I think she feels like her social position is still strong enough that they're not all going to gather together and be like, oh, we all hate Lisa now. Like, I think she knows that her social position is strong enough that some people are still going to go to bat for her, even if she's not there, which is absolutely what happens. Brittany in the RV starts becoming like a Lisa surrogate. And Heather also goes really hard into defending Lisa when they're out camping. So I think Lisa knows that some people are going to defend her, and that and some people are going to try to take the opportunity to attack her. And I think she kind of wants to see how the new terrain lies, what the camps are forming are before she joins in. I think she's taking it as kind of a watch and see before I play my hand kind of approach.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the trade-off is, yes, you are giving up your opportunity to frame your narrative going into this season, but the trade-off is that in return, you're getting to see how the information flows back to you. So you're getting to see who is on your side, who's sticking up for you, who's in your corner. And you also get a wealth of potential leverage in conflict. Like, that information that comes back to you is something that you can use. You can be like, I heard you saying this about me.
Yeah.
And now that's your like launching point into any sort of conflict. So she does actually gain a lot more than I initially thought by sitting this out. It'll be interesting to see how she plays that, whether or not this is something that, is by design, that she intentionally wants to get a read on things, and if she's actually going to use this information, or if, this was her just playing scared. But it will be interesting to see how this plays out strategically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we do see that happening. Like when we get when Angie drops the Ben Shaw comparison, that's something that's going to come back probably, right? Like that's the kind of thing where Lisa can sit on the sidelines and say who says stuff that will become ammunition that will then be brought back later in the season. The kind of things that could be said that maybe wouldn't be said if she was there, so that she can kind of let them make their mistakes, let them put their feet in it, and then get more cards to play when she joins back in.
Yeah, and like Lisa is the type of housewife that I think is really going to care about who is actually sticking up for her. Like, she's got this like internal code of honor that she expects everyone to kind of hold themselves to, and so whether someone is going to bat for her or not is going to make a huge difference in terms of her opinion of them. So yeah, I think that it will be interesting to see how this all kind of shakes out.
One person who really knows that is Heather, which is why Heather, I think you saw her terrified of being seen not supporting Lisa. I thought that was I thought she showed a real anxiety about potentially being implicated in the conversation that Lisa would use against her, and I think that was kind of our big motivating factor in her defense there. But we also saw like the hesitation on the others who did start to go for her, and that kind of shows the sort of social power she has. Like I was saying, that I think she's confident in her own social power, that she knows that they're not going to form like a strong alliance against her, even when she's not there. Because we see it's really Bronwyn who brings it up, and I thought does a pretty good job of it, because she really makes sure to couch it in, first of all, like a kind of conversational tone, not in a like I'm going on to the attack tone, but in a really like, for somebody who's always criticizing other people's businesses, sure sounds like there's been some issues with hers and stuff, and Angie, who's eager to follow suit, like mimics the same framing, right? Angie right away is also like, yeah, for somebody who criticizes other people's businesses, like they make sure that that's the framing of it, as gee, this person always goes for other people's businesses, and there's some problems with her own, and but then once they get like pushback from Heather, they both kind of back off a bit, and they're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't push that button too hard right now. It feels kind of like still a delicate topic for now.
I thought that like Heather's handling of this situation was really interesting, because you're right. Bronwyn was like very careful with her words going in. She brings it up, but she's very careful about how she frames it. And then Heather, and to an extent Mary as well, kind of goad her into talking shit about Lisa. And Bronwyn takes the bait and is just like unloads. I thought that this was like pretty smart, housewife craft from Heather here to draw that information out. She knows that this divide between Bronwyn and Lisa is super deep, and that one, Bronwyn is going to react emotionally, like she's not going to be able to hide her emotion and is going to spill, and two, that this information that she is able to get out of Bronwyn, when she brings that back to Lisa, that is going to really help bolster her position there. So I think that's smart. I think that's something that we're going to see happen. Heather is going to be the first one on Lisa's phone to, let her know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought that this was like smart work from Heather.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm interested in seeing is how this impacts the relationship between Heather and Whitney, because obviously Whitney and Lisa are on opposite sides of the spectrum here, and with Heather seemingly making a play to inch as close to Lisa Barlow as possible, what that's going to mean for the relationship that her and Whitney have. What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go moving forward, because I feel like they're in like a pretty good place right now without being like buddy, but they're not in like an active conflict. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes forward. I would like to see them return to being an active conflict, because I really like it when it's Heather versus Whitney, just because they have that kind of more history together. I always feel like it's more charged, like all their history with the church and the way they reacted to separating from the church and stuff always ends up getting implicated when they're at crossroads. So if how they react to Lisa becomes a wedge between them, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think like this is something that Whitney is trying to counter a little bit here. Like when they go kayaking, she puts Heather and Bronwyn on a kayak together and then like speeds off, like she's an Olympic kayaker, and leaving Bronwyn and Heather to kind of sort things out. It's kind of like a lock-in type situation. And that does mend their relationship a little bit. It seems like this is an effort from Whitney to try to solidify things, because she knows that she's going to land on the same side of the brewing fight with Lisa Barlow as Bronwyn. And so to try to mend the Bronwyn and Heather relationship kind of helps strengthen that side if that's the way that Heather goes. But it definitely seems like that's not the way that Heather is leaning.
You think she successfully executed the Parent Trap maneuver?
Well, I mean, it seemed like they made progress there, so we'll see if it sticks.
Yeah, they both seem to, or at least Heather seemed to want to frame it that way. Yeah.
I like Heather, I feel like is a pretty reactionary housewife. Like she is trying to react to whatever is going on currently without a lot of like long-term planning. So I don't think that Heather is factoring Bronwyn into a long-term plan in the way that I think that Whitney is a very like strategic long-term thinking housewife. And like, I do believe that she is trying to set things up socially so that she is coming from a stronger position. So I don't know that Heather is going to, I think it's going to take a lot for Heather to bond with Bronwyn unless the situation just like calls for it immediately.
Yeah.
So highlights that we haven't talked about. Do you have any?
What haven't we talked about? One little more quote that I'd like to throw out there. I did like Heather describing what Brittany was wearing as, well, unless she's planning on going to a pool party with a congressman. That was pretty good. But otherwise, I think we've basically covered the good bits, my favorite bits.
Yeah, I also really liked everyone's befuddlement at the fact that they ended up in this RV resort that was a complete dump. Like they were genuine. Like when they got out, they genuinely could not believe that this is where they were going to be for the trip. Like they thought they were being
including Angie, I think.
Yeah,
who had only seen the website.
Mary.
Yeah.
And Mary, just the confessional that we got where she's like trying to distance herself. Like, I don't know how my name got attached to this.
Yeah.
I really liked how that was edited so that we got, Whitney talking about how when I think of Mary, I think of like luxury and glamour, and immediately like Mary trying to distance herself from the trip. I really love that.
Yeah. The viewpoints did look beautiful. But yeah, I did think that nobody was really expecting to just turn up in nomad land.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay, well, I would like to hear from our audience. Leave us a comment in terms of what you think about the current social structure of this cast. We'll discuss all your comments on our next episode. Let's talk about stars. Who are your 3 stars from this episode?
I'm really not sure who I want to put at number 1. So I'm going to kind of split the difference here. And I think I'm going to put Brittany at number 1 because I don't think anybody made me laugh more than her. From, tapping a butter knife against a plastic Perrier bottle and saying ding, ding, ding before announcing her engagement, which was immediately called off, despite there being like glass receptacles nearby. It was just that's the kind of thing that I like for Brittany. I just like her cluelessness, her bad timing. The fact that, again, like in some of those arguments, she was totally in the right, in my opinion, and she had the right perspective, but nobody was going to take her seriously because her timing is off and awkward, and she's just not good at it, and she just has a one-track mind and thinks everybody is constantly obsessed about her relationship with Jared when nobody gives a shit. And I'm going to give her number 1 because she's hysterical, and I'm so glad they kept her around, even though she's on the total periphery of everybody's storylines. Let's give number 2 to Whitney. Great showing. She's coming out ready to fight. She's in defensive mode. She knows that she's in a crouched defensive posture. She knows that people are going to attack her, but did like some really good parrying there, making sure everybody's talking about how brave and honest it is to openly discuss a business failing so that nobody says anything about what the business actually is. Like completely deflects from addressing what the actual nature of the business that failed, very skillfully. So good on her. Let's give that a number 2. And I'll give Bronwyn number 3. I thought I thought this was good stuff from her. Again, like I mentioned, she's the other person who I see really starting off in a really bad weakened position. She's obviously in a good spot to lead the attack against Lisa, because they already don't like each other and she needs to do something. But that's a very, very difficult thing to do from her perspective, from her position, from her weakened social standing. And I think it was a pretty good start. If that's going to be the through line of her this season, is that she's going to be the one trying to get people on her side attacking Lisa. I thought it was a good start. I think she's usually pretty delicate and handles things pretty well when she often it blows up in her face for sure, but she's pretty good with her words. She knows how to, she can usually like frame things in a way where it seems kind of calm and logical and doesn't seem like just a straight out attack. And I think she was off to a good start here. The way she discusses her lying about a necklace was kind of it's kind of an indefensible position, but she does a good enough job making it seem like she's like confessing about her weaknesses rather than just completely denying the fact that she was lying. I'm grading her on a curve because it's such a degree of difficulty, I think, where she's starting from, and I think and I think she's handling it pretty well so far.
Yeah, those are good. I've got a little bit of overlap here. I think number 3 for me is going to be Brittany. I just like watching her kind of be clumsy and fumble around, and I think that she's adds a lot of energy to this. So I really, really like her presence here. I think number 2 is going to be Heather for me. I think Heather is doing a lot here. I think that she is pretty compelling to watch her kind of navigate this. Like I said, she kind of exists in a frame of time that is like looking purely at the last 2 weeks and the next 2 minutes. I think that is really interesting, and I'm excited to see what happens here.
I feel like Heather's a lot more strategic than you're giving her credit for, if you don't mind me cutting it here. But I feel like we've maybe had this discussion before. I think Heather is thinking long-term. I think she's a long-term thinker. I don't say I know what her strategy is, but I think that she's so invested in her social standing that she is thinking things through, that this is too important for her to be like winging it.
Yeah, I think that she is thinking about her social position. You're right. That is like the number one motivator for her, but I feel like she goes into every situation and she's just trying to manage that particular situation. I don't see her really setting a lot of groundwork up. Like the fact that she just doesn't really know how to talk about Lisa is really kind of an indicator. But, I'm not giving Heather a lot of credit. So I think you are right that I'm probably not giving her enough. But I think that the fact that she is just like so immediate really is interesting. Like, I don't think that's a fault. We need people like that, because if it was just a lot of people playing chess and trying to set up their pieces and make sure that all of their pieces are defended, and I think that could get a little boring. The fact that Heather has to react and pivot and finds herself like tangled up in situations really adds to the dynamic here. So either way, I think we saw some good work from Heather here.
I was just going to say that her little ghost story adventure setup thing is also just classic dork-ass Heather shit. So I like that from her too. She's definitely the kind of person that when she visits a new city, she does those like ghost story walking tours. Like that's the way I see her. And also her like insisting on using like kayak terminology, so everybody knows she knows how to use a kayak. That's the kind of dorky shit that I expect from Heather.
Yeah, I think this was a great episode for Heather. I'm coming around to Heather. I think like I'm kind of seeing how she fits within the dynamic of this group as being a net positive, as opposed to her just being kind of a replacement level housewife, which is, the position that I was coming from going into last season, especially. She's
Before I
growing
started
on me.
converting you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And number one for me is Whitney, because I think that she just never gets enough credit from the fan base. I think that she is a very strategic housewife that doesn't really get the props that she deserves. She's the one that is playing chess. She's making sure that her positions are covered as best she can. She's setting up for attacks. Even just the subtle things of forcing this Parent Trap situation. I think that she does great work here. So I am excited about what the season holds for Whitney. Whitney is, we had talked about how she is not in a position of power here, but when has she ever been in a position of power? She loves to play the underdog position and play from behind. So the fact that the deck is stacked against her is not something that really concerns me as a I don't know, we need a name for like diehard Whitney fans. So drop it in the comments. What do we call ourselves? But yeah, I'm really excited about what is in store from her. I want to give an honorable mention to Angie, who wasn't the most like active here, but I thought that she was really funny. She added a lot to every scene she's in. We got her, planning this half-assed trip to this dump of an RV park and forgetting hot dog buns and ketchup, and she's just like really funny to me, and I think she might be my favorite housewife on this cast. So yeah, honorable mention to her, and honorable mention honestly to Lisa Barlow, because we have talked so much about Lisa Barlow. The girls on this trip have talked so much about Lisa Barlow, and she wasn't even on this episode. So
yeah,
shout out to her.
Yeah, for sure.
And Mary, of course. Mary had a great episode as well. She was super funny, and yeah, just really added to things as well. This was a good start, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we had classic funny moments from all these, from every cast member, like that we've gone over it. We've quoted basically all of them. Like the things that we love about their personalities were kind of all on display here. Even like you said at the start, Meredith was the one that was kind of the most absent, but even like the way she talked about fishing, and she was the one being like, but like, how long does it take to catch a fish? Like that was good Meredith stuff right there too. Like even her, like everybody had like good quotes that are just like classic them. So this was definitely a good start, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it. Leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the start of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Dylan, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, I do write on Substack very rarely, but you could find me if you just look for my name, Dylan Ferguson, on Substack. I did put something up a little while ago for the first time in a while about some recent movies, including Eddington and the new Mission Impossible. So if you're interested in what I have to say about new movies, that's there.
I am Craig Midwinter. You can just find me manning our TikTok and Instagram at Bravo Outsider. Be sure to go to our YouTube and subscribe if you're listening on a podcast platform. We don't care about your views on Spotify. I don't know why I'm being so dismissive of people right now. We do. We care deeply about every listen that we get. So be sure to hit subscribe so that we come up in your feed. Leave us a comment. That helps us out a ton. Until next week, keep on wiping.